Today I bring to everyone an extremely perverted movie. A boy was imprisoned by a perverted doctor, and turned into a female. She has a fragile skin and a beautiful face. The doctor even fell in love with her. So does the guy accept to be a girl? How was his outcome? The movie begins. The summer sun shines brightly. In the luxury villa fenced with iron. The heroine Vera wore a skin-colored tight suit. Relaxing muscles, practicing yoga. Maybe because she was bored, she went to paste skin layers for the statues. On the other hand, Marilia Butler poured medicine into a cup of juice. She put the food and books in the tray and moved down to Vera's room. Receiving the supplies, Vera asked to get herself some cloth and double-sided tape. Seeing Marilia agree, Vera asked for scissors and needles. Marilia laughed, saying, "Are you kidding me?" Vera also seemed to have expected Marilia to disagree. She had to open the closet. Her wardrobe did not have any intact sets. Every set lost its cloth. To cover the statues with skin. At this time, expert Robert, the owner of the mansion, is teaching students how important skin is to someone who has been burned. Upon arriving at the mansion, he immediately turned on the TV screen in his bedroom. Seeing Vera lying naked on the bed, Robert brought a gift into the room. Then discovered Vera cut her wrist. He hurriedly carried Vera into the operating room. After the emergency, she woke up. Vera opened her eyes wide and said, "You can kill me if you don't want me to live." Robert just replied, "What the heck are you talking about?" Vera's gaze was blank. "When will these days end?" Robert dodged her question, "Your skin is softer than I thought." Vera continued to threaten, "If you don't kill me, I'll kill myself." It seems that Robert was too understanding of Vera's personality. If you really want to die, you have to cut the aorta. But honestly, your skin is softer than I thought. At this point, Marilia gave Robert a can of animal blood. Robert returned to the laboratory and implanted the skin on the human model. This skin transplant process also took place countless times in Vera. Robert looked at Vera lying on the operating table, coldly speaking, "You won't get burned this time." "So did you last time," replied Vera miserably. It seemed Robert was used to ignoring Vera's pain. He burned her skin while asking if it hurt. Robert snapped a mosquito on Vera's skin. Then confidently said, "It probably won't burn you." Watery-eyed Vera lies on the operating table. As a test subject, she could only coordinate with him. Of course, Robert did not admit to doing human experiments. During the report on the results of high research, Robert said that doing experiments on mice. He said this kind of fake leather is also effective on human skin. This statement makes the audience talk. They asked Robert why he named it Gal. Robert replied, "Gal is the name of my wife who died from burns." The director was extremely skeptical of Robert's experimental data. He asked Robert privately, "What kind of fake leather did you research?" "As far as I know, there's only one way, mutation." Meeting people in the industry, Robert had to admit, he changed the genes of pig skin and then experimented with humans. The director opposes the immoral behavior. Science has banned the use of genetic engineering in humans before. "If you continue to research, I will expose the truth. I did this experiment in memory of my wife," explained Robert. "I will stop the experiment." After Robert assuredly that he will not continue the experiment, the director ignored the top doctor of this hospital. Arriving home, Robert continued to monitor his experiment. After all, he put so much effort into her. He took the box he intended to give Vera from the previous time and entered. Vera was scared when she heard Robert's footsteps. But she still had to try to smile about her fate. Greater than, she begged Robert to live a simple life with her. Robert turned down Vera. Vera did not mind, saying that Robert had fallen in love with her for a long time. Robert could only avoid her gaze, leaving the room. Vera stood still, smiling steadfastly at Robert. Marilia begins to warn about Robert's feelings for Vera. She assumed that Robert turned Vera into Gal. Makes him lose his mind by looking at his wife-like face. Actually, Marilia thought that Vera should be killed or imprisoned for the rest of her life after the experiment was over. Robert disagreed, although he did not admit his feelings for her. But Robert still relaxed Vera's confinement. On Halloween, the streets are filled with strangely dressed people. A man dressed as a tiger pressed the mansion's bell. Marilia realizes this is Zeka, her son. At first she did not let in. But listening to her son begging, she could not refuse. Zeka on the field, she asked to only see each other for a while. Zeka eats the food that Marilia cooks. On TV, news of Zeka robbing the gold shop is being broadcast. Marilia stunned, does that mean the police are looking for you? Zeka replied, so I have to wait until Halloween to see you. I intend to hide here for a few days. And asks for Robert's orthopedic surgery. Marilia laughed miserably, on the operating table, he will definitely kill you. Could it be that you don't know what you did to him? Zeka ignored Marilia's warning, finished eating and drinking. He accidentally saw Vera in the monitor. Zeka licks the screen while asking where this girl is. Marilia knew that Zeka mistakenly thought it was Gal and pulled out the gun. Zeka immediately took over her. Gunfire. Vera asked, what's going on, Marilia? There's gunshots? Marilia was tied to a chair, unable to answer. She could only watch Zeka look for Vera. Seeing Vera, Zeka was extraordinarily happy, although not familiar. But Vera still begs Zeka to take her away. But Zeka ors it, he just wants to rape Vera. He pressed Vera under his body, asking, how did you escape? Didn't you burn your whole body? Vera could not protest, could only beg. Robert arrives at the mansion, finds Marilia tied up and the TV screen. He grabbed a gun and jumped into Vera's room. Marilia was indignant, shoot them both dead. But Robert just shot and killed Zeka. Then hugged Vera tightly, comforting her. Expressions contain pain and blame. When Robert scrambled Zeka's body in the suburbs. Marilia has just cleaned up the bloody bed sheet. Just told Vera about the old days. It turned out that Robert and Zeka were half-brothers. Zeka's father is a servant in Robert's house. Marilia was also a servant, Robert's father had an affair with her. Then Marilia gave birth to Robert. Marilia looks after Robert as a maid. Vera asked, does Zeka know me? Marilia sighed, he thought she was Gal, wife of Robert. Zeka drug trafficking from 7 years old. 12 years ago, he ran here. But Gal fell in love with Zeka at first sight, they ran away. Who expected an accident? Zeka was lucky to survive. When they found Gal, she was severely burned. Marilia continued. Robert saved his wife with supernatural medicine. But Robert's feelings did not receive a good response. Since Gal was burned, mirrors are not allowed in the house. After a few months under Robert's protection, Gal made a good turn. One day, Gal heard her daughter singing. She pulled out the thick curtain, letting the sunlight into the room. Her ugly appearance was printed on the glass. Gal could not bear, she jumped and committed suicide. Seeing mother kill herself in front, Norma suffered from a huge pain. Later, Norma also jumped to kill herself like her mother. This was the first time Vera heard about Robert's past. She pitied Robert. Vera feared his cruelty and coldness. But still feel sorry for Robert. At this point Robert also returned. He told Vera to go inside to rest with him. Vera's gaze on him was also surprisingly gentle. That night Robert just hugs Vera to fall asleep. But after this incident emotions suppressed in them gradually become passionate. Vera then realized that the death of the daughter made Robert cruel. That's why he planned his revenge. This story must be from 6 years ago. At that time Robert took his daughter to join a friend's wedding. He hoped Norma's mood may improve. Robert wanted to increase Norma's adaptability to the outside world. Seeing his daughter trying to get to know everyone, Robert was very happy. He noticed a guy talking to his daughter. Afraid that Norma couldn't cope, Robert followed. But Norma and the boy were gone. He hurried to the garden to find his daughter. But only the heels and Norma coat were on the ground. At this moment the boy walking with Norma drove his motorcycle past. Robert felt that the situation was not good. As expected, he found Norma fainting in the bushes. Robert woke his daughter up. She screamed in horror. Since then Norma's illness became more serious, daring not to meet anyone. Norma committed suicide while Robert ignored her. The boy who caused the tragedy to happen was Vera. His name was Vicente then. But in his iced situation was like this. During the party Vicente was attracted to Norma's shy face. Norma also had a good impression on him. The two of them went out together. Norma took off her shoes and shirt to look like a normal person. Vicente saw Norma not refusing his intimate act. Take it one step further, but this action stressed Norma. She bit Vicente's hand. During the chaos, Vicente knocked Norma unconscious. Seeing her faint, Vincent straightened Norma with her clothes, then got on a motorbike to escape. At home, greater than Vicente continued to help his mother sew clothes. He did not know that his behavior caused the death of a girl. But to Robert, Vicente is the evil that ruined his only thing. After days following Vicente, he kidnapped him. Lock him in there. Robert was engulfed in the pain of losing his child. Finally outlined a terrifying revenge plan. He took Vicente to his own lab. Then call a colleague over and lie to them for having a guest. Want to transgender. Because some VIP customers usually do not undergo surgery in the hospital. So the colleagues without a doubt began to step in, helping Vicente transgender. Vicente woke up, discovered that he was transsexual. He was deeply upset. But he also understood he could not resist Robert. "Will you let me go?" asked Vicente. Robert smiled faintly. "This is just the beginning." He stepped closer and spoke to Vicente. "The girl you raped is my only relative. Because of you, she killed herself." Vicente's explanation was nothing compared to the life that was lost. Robert kept changing Vicente. Vicente's masculinity gradually lost. Instead, Vera entered this world in surprise. After 6 years, Vera has attractive breasts, elegant body. Her skin was also gradually replaced by fake skin. Vera suffered both physical and mental pain that is unimaginable by ordinary people. Although she obeyed, she just wanted to run away. Several times, Robert let his guard down. She attacked Robert, but cannot escape. Since fake skin is thicker than normal skin, suicide is not easy. Vera could not bear it anymore. She tore off her skirt, but this way of protest was useless. Vera could only calm down by meditating and modeling. She also writes a diary and records the dates on the wall. But Vera did not know when these days would end. Because Robert often has to work far away, he invited Marilia. Vera and Robert have been together for the past 6 years. The two are getting closer and closer. Seeing a face like Gal, he couldn't afford to hurt Vera. The intention to avenge also lost. Vera also began to get confused about her gender. There was a time she forgot that she was Vicente. She longed for freedom, but relied on Robert. Until Vera was raped by Zeka. Robert just realized he had fallen in love with Vera. Romance becomes pain medicine. In the end, Robert promised not to lock up Vera anymore. Let her live freely with him. But the only condition was that Vera was not allowed to leave him. From there, Vera gained freedom. Take care of Robert like a wife looks after her husband. Just as she passed this wall, she stopped to watch. The days of her imprisonment are still evident in mind. How could she deal with her new life now? Marilia does not approve of Robert's tolerance for Vera. Vera has the same freedom as a time bomb. Marilia was constantly warning that Vera could escape at any moment. But Robert just replied, she already made a promise. In fact, Vera didn't intend to leave Robert either. Because wanting to start a new life. Robert also closed his own lab. But that will affect the interests of colleagues. Colleagues came, asking Robert not to close. He intimidated with a newspaper. A young man named Vicente who 6 years ago had transgender surgery. The notice to find him is still in the newspaper. The papers he gave before were fake. They suspect he was not a client, but he was kidnapped by him. I even suspect you did the experiment, Gal, on him. I will expose everything. At that moment, Vera arrived home. She explained for Robert. What are you saying? I don't know what fake skin is. Now I'm not Vicente, but Vera. I have always thought that I am a woman. Vera approached Robert and sat on his lap. Seeing this, the colleague had to leave. Robert greatly appreciated Vera. But when her eyes skimmed over the newspaper photo, she was terrified and confused. The dead Vicente woke up once again. Am I really Vera, or Vicente? After all, who am I? At night, while having sex, Vera went downstairs to look for lubricant. Also put the gun into the pocket. Vicente is no longer weak. Resentment and pain gradually emerged. When she turned on the power, she saw Vicente's bright smile. With wet tears, Vera finally had the answer. She is Vicente, who was imprisoned for many years. Transgender surgery forced, fake skin implanted on the body. Vera never really existed. When she got upstairs, Vera tried to stay calm, tossing Robert a bottle of lube. Without hesitation, she pulled out the gun, saying, "I'll kill you." Robert looked at Vera, laughing, "Are you kidding me?" Seeing Vera's expression, Robert continued, "You promised not to leave me." Her gaze was gentle for a moment, but then she steadfastly replied, "I tricked you." Vera opened fire. On hearing the bell, Marilia rushed forward. Seeing Robert fall in a pool of blood, she looked around for Vera. Then got shot by Vera hiding under the bed. The debt for many years finally ends. From now only Vicente survives. That night, Vicente finally found his way home. Vicente entered the store and greeted the mother he hadn't seen in years. Apparently she didn't recognize him, just asked her assistant to go on. Vicente calmed down, explaining to the assistant that he was Vicente. "I was kidnapped, transgender, and able to escape. To escape, I had to kill 2 people. Please help me." The assistant looked blankly at Vicente. Vicente saw that she did not believe him. Immediately tell all the secrets between them before being kidnapped. After listening, the assistant trembled. Vicente's mother also entered the room, looking at the girl in front of her eyes. Vicente's thoughts were confused then. Vicente doesn't know where he should start from. In the end, Vicente just blurted out saying, "Mom, I'm Vicente." The movie ends here. La piel que habito is a work by director Pedro Almodovar. It's considered a representative work for the new genre of movies. The footage is very artistic. The weight of the movie is about transgender, gender perception, mistreatment, revenge. Also the role shifting between the harmed and the unharmed. Each character in the movie has many faces. Robert is cold but emotional, falling in love with Vera. As for Vera, the identities of Vera and Vicente kept on conflict. In order to survive, she must be Vera. Because of her self-esteem and new life, she must be Vicente. Although Vera confuses love and hatred. But when Vicente awoke, fake love is nothing compared to herself. At the end of the movie, Vicente finds his way home. But a part of herself that Vicente has lost permanently stayed for 6 years in captivity. Which makes people extremely sorry. Okay, the movie for today is over. Thank you everyone for your support. See you in the next section.